Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It is the RambleCast. This is Wednesday, September 11th, a cursed day if there ever was one, 2024. I'm your host, Cody Toombs, and with us we have a Corbin Davenport.
Hello.
So, things happened this week, kind of. Episode 894. Honestly, I almost wonder if that's true.
I mean, this has been going for several years, right?
Since 2020.
And it's weekly, and I'm here at least half the time.
You're probably about 2/3, somewhere in that neighborhood. Yeah. Plus, I mean, obviously, we wouldn't be anywhere near that number with regular shows, but adding in that there are the game streams on the weekend, like, I don't know how many videos there are, but there's a lot. And bearing in mind, there were some on Twitch before things went sideways.
The incident.
The incident. Where Twitch placed incompetence over all else. So, speaking of incompetence over all else, I'm going to jump straight into a topic today, which I think people will understand. There's a new technology making the rounds. People have been hearing about this. It's pretty exciting stuff. There is new audio technology where they are building transmission capabilities into earrings so that you can use them as Bluetooth receivers. So we're hearing that this new technology is making the rounds. In fact, it's so popular, or not so popular, but so capable that, as I am to understand it, it's being used during presidential debates. At least that's what Charlie Kirk tells us. I don't know if he was actually one of the people talking about this or not, but okay.
It's something I think he's one of the people who would be like, this is what I've heard, and like be really cowardly about it, but like secretly want people to believe it. People are telling me.
Yes, the people are saying. So in case no one knows what I'm talking about, there is a completely laughable conspiracy theory that Kamala Harris, during last night's debate, was using Bluetooth earbuds as people coached her in what to say. You know, as she pretty much got to dunk on the old man who was clearly confused on regular occasions. But
which,
yes,
like, she can't hear us. She's got AirPods.
Yes.
Which, like, is such a silly thing. Not only because it's wrong, obviously, but like, I straight up don't know how that would work. Because, like, both of them spend the entire night talking or like looking for an interjection to start talking. It's like, I don't know where in that your brain would stop long enough to process someone talking to you, but I don't know. Maybe I'm just not maybe she's just built different. I don't know.
In fairness, I can't tell you how many times I have sat here on this stream talking literally while I'm reading what people are saying in the comments, reading articles, and I can actually talk at the same time. It's not an unheard of ability. It's a thing. I'm not great at it by a long shot, but there are people out there who do this on a regular basis, and they are fantastic at it. For what it's worth, I've watched people playing Overwatch. They're playing heated games and somehow responding directly to commenters, and that makes no sense to me. I could kind of believe that might be a thing, especially if you have a reasonable team of people who know when to talk as opposed to not. The counter to this, and I think this is the thing any reasonable person should be stopping and saying, look, I don't even work in politics. I'm not a political commentator by any stretch of the imagination. And that entire debate, I could have said everything she said easily. That's all easy stuff to lock away into your head. And half of what she said during the debate was the same talking points that she says during rallies and everything else. Why is it hard to believe any person could have done that performance last night? It wasn't.
You get me up there talking about the theme parks at Walt Disney World. I will have a lot of trivia locked and loaded for that argument.
And they knew what the topics were going to be.
Different.
They didn't know the questions, at least presumably, but they knew what the topics were.
Someone brings up a country that like one of them has never heard of, and like, where is that? What is?
Okay, you know
Canada?
That's literally happened to Trump.
Guys, what is Israel? I don't know. People keep talking about it.
So, you know, it's not like they aren't somewhat prepared going in last night. It's a little crazy to think that anyone went in just completely clueless and needed to be coached through stuff. Like, what even is that? Anyway, this was one of the funniest, stupidest conspiracy theories I've seen in a long time. And if anything, I think it's worth calling out as the community note on the Twitter post points out, that the earrings she was wearing are quote, translucent pearl earrings sold by Tiffany & Co. What I get out of that is maybe Tiffany has a trademark infringement case against this random Kickstarter campaign that clearly is copycatting their design. That's all that we could take from this. Anyway, so this was dumb.
You said you were gonna do a joke before the stream started. I thought it was gonna be about 9/11. So that took a turn.
I mean, this is better. You know what? I'm gonna go with 9/11 jokes are still not exactly great, but
okay.
Well, I mean, within reason.
I think it's fun because I don't remember it. So, yeah.
Well, I do very much. I actually have a whole backstory that I'm not going to share on this, but I do remember the day that it happened. I was sleeping late that day, and I got a call from my mom saying, "Hey, just so you know, a plane struck one of the Twin Towers in New York." I think it was only one at the time. And so, yeah, I got up, watched some news about it, and partway, like somewhere during the day, it's like, okay, I've had enough of this. And I went out to some sand volleyball courts that I used to play at religiously. And like everyone that came out there, I basically said, okay, we all know what happened today. Let's just agree. Here on the court, it didn't happen. We're just going to play. We're cutting that shit out today. Everyone was pretty happy about that.
Terrorism cannot impact volleyball. It's true.
It's absolutely.
We can't let the terrorists win.
Right. Oh God, I heard that. I heard that so many times over the next few months after that. Wow, that was like the thing that had to be part of every speech, like 50 times. It was kind of like how Giuliani used to constantly reference 9/11 during his really failed presidential run. Oh yeah. Anyway, so that was all.
When did Rudy run for president? That's horrifying.
Well, he didn't. He dropped out in the primaries because wow, he did horribly. But that was I think Obama's second term. He tried running again.
Okay,
I could be wrong.
That's pretty silly.
Well, anyway,
speaking of not letting the terrorists win, there are new iPhones that are out, new Apple stuff. Or are you gonna do the other one?
I just figured that one would be shorter, and then
That's true.
we could just wind out through Apple for the whole rest of the
That's
thing. Because
that's true. And I think I have more formulated thoughts, unfortunately, about the PlayStation one.
yeah,
So speaking of not letting the terrorists win, Sony announced the PlayStation 5 Pro. This is what everyone was kind of expecting. It's the PS5, but with better internal hardware and Wi-Fi 7, and some. They talked about some like upscaling tech they have that supposedly works on unmodified PS5 and PS4 games. They talk about 8K gaming being supported, variable refresh rate, all that fun stuff. Um, the the kind of interesting thing here is, um, I don't have a lot of like insight on like the software and stuff. There's a lot of jokes about this. The main interesting point is that the price is $700, which is I think 200 more than the base PS5. I forget exactly what that starts at.
base
Um,
PS5 I thought was. Oh, that's actually a good question.
500.
No, it's cheaper than that.
I don't know what things
Right.
cost anymore. Well, I've never tried to buy a PlayStation, so that's part of it. It's $499.
Oh, okay.
But that's without the disk drive. So I don't know.
$449.
Okay,
The digital
okay.
edition is $449.
Okay. Oh yeah, I see this picture has the disk drive in it. Okay. So yeah, that's quite a bit more. Notably, it does not come with the disk drive. So that's another thing you have to buy separately, as if it was a digital PlayStation that you were upgrading. Also doesn't come with the vertical stand in the box, which I think is the most silly thing. Um, and there's something else it was missing. I forget what
Exclusive
else.
games.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, that's true.
yeah, so okay. Um, we're probably going a little out of order on this, but yeah, look, first off, this is being called a PS5 Pro, and we've obviously had these discussions about other things that are called Pro. For example, the MacBook Pros that at various times in history have been lacking things that are considered the expectations for pros. Um, yeah, why is the Pro device, air quote Pro device, coming without disk drive, the vertical stand, which yeah, come on, that's a piece of plastic you could have included. It's coming without oh, okay, this one's debatable, but I think it's fair to say, why is it coming without the Pro controller?
Mhm.
It's coming with regular controller, which, yeah, debatable if that one really needs to be included, but I think it probably should have been. Basically, yeah, why is the Pro device, air quote Pro device, supposed to be minus these things?
Also, I still don't like the PS5 design. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's fine.
I don't like my game console being art piece. Just make it a box. I understand for like thermal reasons why like we can't have like the rectangle boxes that like I can then stack other things on top of. I I get why we can't really have that now,
I
but
don't
like,
agree with that, but okay.
well, I guess it depends on what the other box is. If it's like a Chromecast or something,
Well,
it's fine.
I see it like this. Literally right next to me, I have a 6-bay NAS that is churning away. All these drives are currently spinning and writing stuff because I'm moving stuff from one to another. This thing has big fans in the back. Look, the PS5 is a large device. And sure, I know they made a slimmer one, right? Look, it is a large device though. Plain and simple. you can put fans and stuff. They're obviously, you can see it in their image of, this is the Pro, right? Yeah, of the Pro. They have those fins down the center. Are those not for airflow? Like, there's stuff that they can do. There are affordances they can make to put vents into this thing, and it's a large enough device that I imagine airflow's got to be decent. And
Yeah, I know.
the PS4,
I know with
my PS4
Xbox.
has vents and fans, or a fan. I don't know if there's multiple.
Yeah.
My PS3 had at least vents, and I'm assuming fans. I don't really remember. Yeah, common sense here. I think they can do airflow fine without worrying about stuff sitting on top. I don't really care. I'm fine with the idea. Well, I'm not fine with it. I think it's a dick move that all the game consoles have come out with designs to prevent anything from going on top, because some of them, it is not for heat reasons. We know for a fact some of the game consoles did not get particularly hot, and it was not a heat issue. It's because it's kind of a vanity thing. They want to be the device that's sitting on top. They just want to be the thing sitting on top. That makes it more visible if you're going to have more than one console. It was also a bit of an anti-competitive thing, where if you want more than one console, you're going to have multiple like top places to set it, or you're going to have to have
I do agree. This is primarily like, we want to be the thing next to your TV that then you think about and you're like, oh yeah, that my PlayStation's here, I'm going to go turn it on.
Yeah.
So yeah, like it, my Xbox is next to my TV, but yeah, it is, at least with that one, I believe how it works is the fans in the back are pulling in air, and then it gets the exhaust is like out the top, but like it also supports flipping it sideways, so then it'd be pulling from the back and pushing out the side. So that might get a little bit iffy if I did actually shove it in my TV cabinet, but like it's fine. And Brazil Pro version will arrive costing 3,000 reais, right?
Reals.
Whatever that's pronounced. Okay.
Or wait.
Yeah, I don't envy Brazilian electronics pricing.
But that's an I.
It's always crazy over there.
And yeah, I do feel a lot of sympathy for Brazil, because like their phone prices have also been egregiously high.
And that was also where like the PS2 had like a crazy lifespan, because it was that was pretty good on the exchange rate. PS2. Yeah, so like I don't have a lot to necessarily defend or comment on like this console specifically. I don't know if that's a good price or not. My hunch is that it's not. But also I'm not the target market for this. Ultimately, the free market will decide, or whatever. What I do think is very interesting about this, and I'm trying to write a long article about this, and I'll stick it in Cody's Discord when it's done if I remember, is that I think this is another sign. This is now the second time that a major console maker has tried a mid-gen refresh. And because before we had the PS4 Pro and the Xbox One X, and Microsoft is supposedly working on something similar to this, like another mid-gen thing coming, or will be announced later this year, supposedly. Maybe that'll change now. Maybe they're looking at this and being like, why don't we just like save it and do like another refresh? I don't know. But anyway, what I think is most interesting about this and the discussions around it is that everyone is looking at this wrong. What I think the correct way to look at this is not who is this for, this costs too much money, where are the games. I think the correct way to look at this is that home consoles are smartphones now. We are now on the smartphone upgrade cycle for consoles, which means, we're going to talk about well, not necessarily,
I'm kidding.
but like okay. we're like, we're going to talk about the iPhones, and if you spec up an iPhone Pro, that's really expensive and not a good value. But that's kind of accepted because, like, well, everyone's trained to be like, well, that's not the one I'm going to buy. I don't really care. People can buy that if they want. I think that's kind of how we should treat this now, is like, I think there's still an underlying assumption, because consoles were like this for decades, where there was just like the new box, and eventually everyone gets that new box. But now there's a new box, and then there's another new box 4 years later. That's like, maybe for some people, maybe not. Maybe I wait for the next one. Again, like smartphones, where I have my iPhone 15, iPhone 16s were just announced. I looked at it. I said, you know what? There's not really anything here that I need right now. I'm just going to skip this one. And I think that's how we should look at game consoles now, because you can just skip them. Because the backwards compatibility is getting so good, and last gen consoles are still very viable. Like, there's new games coming out for Xbox One and PS4 still. A lot of the like big titles are skipping them because they can't run on like spinning hard drives anymore. That's not going to happen. But like, there's a lot of games that'll still run on there, a lot of live service stuff, a lot of like remastered classic games. In the same way that like an iPhone that stopped getting updates or is on the end of its development span, or software support span, I should say, like, you can still use it. It's not going to have everything, but like the stuff you already have on there will keep working for a while. So I think that's kind of how we need to evaluate this now, is like, not necessarily this costs too much money, who is it for, who's going to buy it, and more like, is this a good upgrade if you haven't bought a PS5 yet? Should you buy this instead of the base model? Is this something that PS5 owners can skip? Yes, most of them, yes. And then sort of evaluate it on those merits. I think that's kind of how we should look at this stuff. And then that also brings the question, though, of like, where the issue that these mid-gen refreshes will have inherently a shorter lifespan than the base console. So at least with how these companies have set these up, or Microsoft and Sony have set this up, a PS4 Pro or an Xbox One X is not going to be as useful for as long as, if I bought an Xbox One in 2013, I'm getting, if I still have, I'm still playing games on it, that's 10 years. But if I bought an Xbox One X, which I think was like 2017, and both of those start to die out at about the same time, because Microsoft currently doesn't let developers make games for only one of those. It has to be both or none. Then those do have a shorter lifespan. So that is an issue with this new like mid-gen thing. But there's a lot of ways to change that. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe Microsoft decides to not do like a mid-gen and maybe like wait another year or two and then do a full refresh like earlier. So then they don't have that problem where there's like a weird middle thing, but I don't know.
Okay. There are a lot of interesting ways I kind of want to approach that. So I think I'm going to start by bringing up, or actually I think I'm going to spin off of what you just finished with. Because there are some really weird angles on how Microsoft could approach this. And they don't really actually relate to the PS5 Pro or PS itself. I've wondered what Microsoft is going to do for a while, because honestly, I think I have ever since the Series S was even announced, I have said Microsoft screwed up horribly. I have since the literal first announcement said they made a massive mistake. They never ever should have made a Series S. because yes, they managed to get something to market for really low price, comparatively speaking, but they made it so much harder for developers. Um, I predicted back then that there was going to be a performance gap that was just going to look really bad, and it might actually cause a lot of games to function poorly. And what we've seen in YouTube review after YouTube review is, oh man, did that turn out true. There's so many games that came out that were just objectively unplayable on the Series S. And plenty of other games that came out and they're playable, but man, the experience just sucks. And you know, that's sort of like walk around Apple and ask them, how would you feel if you released a iPhone that everyone who buys it goes, that's kind of blows. Like, I can't use half the apps that I want to use. I can't send messages properly half the time. Like, if your experience sucks that much, would Apple want to release that product? And okay, never mind the fact that they kind of have released a few of those products, especially in the past. Cough, cough, 8 gigs of RAM on the old Intel MacBooks. Big mistake. Those things were practically unusable. There have been a lot of oopsies in history, but no company should try to do that. And I think Microsoft absolutely did that with the Series S. And the fact that they're still selling the Series S today, I think is mind-blowing. That should not even be allowed. That said, if they do a refresh somewhat soon, I could see Microsoft actually playing an interesting game here where they could put themselves into an alternating cycle. So the Series X is still a pretty decent gaming rig, right? I mean,
yeah. I mean, I have one. That's what I have. It's
right.
pretty darn good.
So it wouldn't be the craziest thing if Microsoft flipped around and said, you know what? We're going to, in the Series S, it's going away. Forget it was a thing. And we're going to keep the Series X around. But we're now going to also bring out the Series A. I don't know, whatever. Pick whatever letter. Or combination of letters.
Yeah.
And
they do the iPhone thing. This is smartphones now.
Exactly. They could then go into this cycle of every 4 years or so, 3 years, 5 years, something. They could bring out a new console that is the half step forward and keep the previous console around until the next half step forward. So they get rid of that multi-generational thing where everything goes away and a new thing comes in, and they can just... Now it's just, hey, every game that comes out needs to support the current 2, but that's it. You just have to support the current 2. And that would be and obviously, price drops on whatever the older version is, and that way they can keep them relevant and keep them, attractive to customers. But people will also learn very quickly, or reasonably quickly, that this is the pattern, and if they want the new console, stick around for a little bit longer. If they want the old console, or if they really need something that's low cost, well, it's going to drop in price in, 6 months or something. So just wait a little bit longer and you'll be able to get that one. That could be a really good, healthy cycle for the Xbox family. Let's see.
Yeah, I mean,
Go ahead.
I will say I'm still going to be a Series S defender, just because I appreciate that, Microsoft got something that can play the major games coming out, and it's a thing that is usually like $200, compared to a Switch or any gaming PC or whatever else. That is bonkers. Obviously, the user experience suffered depending on the game. I haven't. I did get a Series S for my family, so maybe I'm bad person. But when I was playing on that, the stuff I was playing seemed fine, but I've not played on it long term. Um, it is an indisputable fact that it has been a complaint of game developers that because they can't get their games working acceptably on a Series S, that blocks them from selling it on either the S or the X. And that's a thing that Microsoft hasn't like fully addressed. They don't really have a solution for that, and I don't think there's a way to, if they acquiesce and go like, okay, yeah, you can make X only games, and like everyone who bought an S is like, what the hell, guys? that's not what I agreed to. So yeah, I appreciate them for trying, and they obviously it did suffer as a result. But yeah, I do think it probably would have been better if they just started doing rolling releases earlier. Where, yeah, I don't know, maybe like the One X becomes the cheap thing. I don't know if it was a practical option or something like that. But yeah, I would like to see something like that. And this is all possible because like backwards compatibility with the game consoles, at least right now, is extremely good. It is very cool that I can play a new game on my Xbox, as well as, thank you, Apple, as well as games that came out like 20 years ago that like I just never got around to, and I want to play some of them. That's really cool.
Yeah, and that's kind of what that is certainly a big part of how I look at it. Is there's this very tangible reach for games. And look, I think the timing of when the game consoles all happened to refresh just around COVID hitting and everything else, the fact that backwards compatibility was so much of a thing for both Sony and Microsoft, that really helped a lot. Also, the fact that obviously a lot of people didn't upgrade their consoles, or not at the rates that people wanted them to. As CD Projekt Red very famously stumbled onto, the upgrade rate from or to like a Series X or PS5 was pretty slow, which really, really hurt them with the Cyberpunk 2077 release.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's smartphones now. Not everyone's buying the latest iPhone. You can buy an iPhone and hang on to it for a couple of years. It's gonna work fine.
Yeah. So having said that, yeah, I'm on the idea that I think Microsoft can take a different approach here that's probably better suited to where they're at. Now, as far as Sony, the PS5 Pro, I agree with you. People are looking at this in the wrong ways. Some of which, I don't think all of these are the wrong ways. Certainly, when people sit down and say it costs too much, depending on what they're comparing to, they're probably right, or at least they have a position that may be based in practical arguments as opposed to how some other people are approaching this.
Yeah, I think a price argument is definitely just, again, I'm not here to defend the $700 console that doesn't have a disk drive. It's pretty silly. I will say more like it's more an issue where sometimes you have to look at something and be like, that's not for me. I'm not the market for that. And there's a lot of people who don't do that, and they're like, why isn't this for me? I'm angry.
Yeah, people definitely get confused on that a lot more than they should. And as I see it, for starters, I actually don't think there's anything wrong with making a $700 console. I think that's fine.
Right.
100%. Go
Like,
ahead.
you can
If
buy
there's an
a
audience that wants to buy it, go ahead.
yeah.
Make the product for the audience that wants to buy that thing. I have no qualms with that.
You can buy a pre-built PC that's like $8,000 if you want.
Yeah.
There's a market for that.
A fun fact: there was a company one time that decided to make a product, not unlike our smartphones, that it was a wearable product, and it was coated in gold, and they charged a lot for that. It was Apple. They made a really crappy, largely unlikable first generation Apple Watch in gold. And oh boy, it was expensive. And people bought it. Did a lot of people buy it? I doubt it. But enough. There was enough people that bought that. Not enough that they did it ever again, which is possibly funnier. But people bought that. And as long as you have a market of people who are looking at things and saying, hey, I'm willing to spend more for that, go ahead. Serve them. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with serving that audience. As long as, or no, ideally as long as not as long as you are also keeping in mind that the majority of the audience is not going to get that. So, if they come out with, let's say, the PS5 Pro, as long as games do not come out exclusively requiring the Pro, which is what some people are actually demanding, then who cares? Go ahead.
Which, I know this is a chicken and the egg problem, but imagine being a game developer who only targets the Pro. Your target that's worse than that's the issue with the PSVR 2 right now. Mm-hmm. Is that because you need to buy an entire console and also an entire headset, and those two things together is your target market. It is all the PSVR devs are having a bad time right now because it's an addressable market of 15 people. This would be worse.
I don't know that I agree it'll be worse, but yeah, you're definitely limiting your audience if you target this. And in large part, I think a lot of people made okay. So I think back to about, let's say, a year ago. I remember people saying, well, what is a PS5 Pro gonna be? And the thing everybody kept saying was, oh, well, what I really wanted to do is give me the high graphics settings and 60 frames per second. And what did Sony give? What did they deliver? High graphics settings and 60 frames per second. And those same people are now mad that that's what it is? I can't wrap my head around that. People literally got what they asked for. And now they're mad about it, which, okay, I think there are reasons to actually justifiably be a little mad. Like I said, maybe include a Pro controller, maybe include the disc drive, maybe include at least a plastic stand. Include the things that you should include. But you can't be mad that Sony came out with the upgrades that they asked for.
Yeah. Even if we had this discussion again, I'm going to go back to smartphones. We had this discussion when phones started dropping included headphones and included charging cables of that should just be in there because we're paying all this money for the thing. It should just be in there. So again, we're doing this again. This is still smartphones. I will say, I think at least with this one, Sony really should have done if you buy one of these, 50% off disc drive. If it's not going to be included or free or something, just something, because again, there's going to be people who buy this who will just never use a disc because that's how a lot of people play games now. But you can still be if you want one, it's there, in the same way that some people buying the new phone will need a charging cable. So it'd be good if you were able to add that for a small cost.
Yeah, there's certainly things that they could have and should have done differently and better with this. But I can't be mad at them for the fact that they made the product that they were asked to make. And in fairness, they did it in a way that for the most part also should not actually exclude people who have current PS5s. I mean, if you have a current PS5, you should be able to play all the same games. You're gonna get them at 30 frames per second with fine graphics, or you're gonna get the high fidelity graphics. Or sorry, you know what I mean. You can choose between frame rates and graphic settings, and or you can pay an extra however much more and not have to make that decision. That seems good. That's a fair trade-off. And I've seen a lot of other people pointing out, hey, for people who want to for people who have a PS5, you could, well, people are saying trade it in, which I don't know that you're going to get those good of deals. But you could sell off a current PS5 and get a PS5 Pro with an upgrade of, spend an extra $300, $400, whatever you're going to pay. That's okay. If it's worth it to you, go for it. That's not an insane thing to ask. So do I think that it's overpriced? Probably a bit. I'm willing to bet Sony could have released a PS5 Pro for $600, and I don't know that they would have necessarily made a significant profit off of this, but I'm betting they could have done that for $600 and still been profitable, or at least had the break-even point. So yeah, it's probably a little too expensive, but so be it.
Yeah, and I wonder how much of this is affected by the fact that the yen is taking a fat dump right now.
Yeah, that could be too.
Sony trying to sell their stuff in any other country, they're gonna have a bad time.
Yeah, there's certainly some elements of truth to that. So, I've also seen people comparing this to obviously Xbox, but also PCs. Kind of if you're already going to spend $700, shouldn't you just go build a PC?
I don't like that argument either.
Yeah, neither do I. Because
like
I don't compare the two. I've never compared PC versus console because I don't think they're the same.
Yeah, they're very different use cases. They're different primary input methods. I know you can get like a set-top PC and stick it next to your TV and get a controller, and it's basically the same, but it's still not really built for that. They just don't have the same games. So if you want PC games, you get a PC. If you want the PlayStation games, some of them do come to PC eventually, but it's later and not all of them.
And there are some things that definitely come to PC first. There are some things that are just for various reasons they are better on PC. For example, modding. You want to mod something, you're not even looking at a console. That's not a consideration.
It's just like it's like saying, why would you buy a sedan when you can buy a pickup truck? It's like, yes, I know those things do many of the same tasks, but they're better at different things, and I might care about some of those things more.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very, and PC gamers love doing that every single time. Every single time there's a new console. Why would you not buy a PC? Some people want here's the thing. I'm this person now where I was PC gaming, and then I got to a point where I don't want to sit at my desk to play all my games. I don't want to do that. And I don't want to deal with all the bullshit Windows wants to do now. Mm-hmm. I just want to play my game. So I did the old person thing where I got the box and I stuck it next to my TV and I click download and the games download and I play them and it's great. And I can go play them in my TV, or I got my my Logitech G Cloud. I can go play my games in bed. I can go to bed and stream them to this. And I could also do this with the PC, but then I have to make sure the PC's working, and then change the resolution because I have an ultra wide monitor and this is not ultra. So yeah, again, so different use cases.
Look, I think back to when so setting aside when I was a kid, those years don't count for this, but when
Right, because consoles weren't invented yet. Sorry, had to go there.
bring it, brat. Anyway, um, when I was working as a contractor, I was living in a house in Vegas, and I had my desktop computer. That's where I worked, and that's where I was playing games. But and people won't identify with this nearly as well these days, but back then, it was not uncommon that you might install some Visual Studio libraries or not libraries, but add-ons or extensions, or you might have to install certain patches or something like that, and oh look, Windows is borked again. So you offload your personal data, you offload your projects, you wipe your drives, start over, you install everything again, and this again sounds like madness to people who weren't there for it, but trust me, this was normal. This was real life for Windows development. And to be fair, it was actually real life for Mac developers. They just won't admit it. Anyway, this kind of situation made it so that if you had a game installed on your machine, well, you're going to have to go through backing up the save files. You're going to have to do something to reinstall the game. You're going to have to go through setting everything back up again. The more things that you pile onto the same computer, the worse that experience got. And at a certain point, I was like, you know what? I want to be able to play games. I'm just gonna go get a console. And very clearly, that was the answer. I went and got an Xbox 360. I think would have been the right time frame. And I got a few games for it, and I was pretty happy with that. That worked great. That didn't cover all the gaming that I wanted to do necessarily, but it covered pretty well most of it. And yeah, like, just not having to deal with having games be on your working computer, that was a huge boon to me. So the argument that you should just build a PC instead of getting a PS5 or PS5 Pro, yeah, it doesn't hold water to me, because a lot of people have reasons why they might want a console. And plus, there are exclusives. There are obviously the experience is just built for you. Like, this is an ecosystem of games that are designed for the hardware, accessories that are designed for the hardware and other accessories. It all works together in a much more seamless way. It's sort of like the Apple ecosystem of products, except, honestly, console stuff works together correctly, where half of Apple's ecosystem is a little iffy. But
and like with my Xbox, like, I almost never see a game main menu, because it does the quick resume thing where every game is running in like a little tiny VM, and it just saves that when I exit. That's super cool. Love that. Also, in my case, my Xbox, because I had a Blu-ray player, but I gave it to my mom, so that's my Blu-ray player now. Good luck trying to play a Blu-ray on a PC.
Yeah,
it doesn't want to do that.
Yeah,
it's also my my media streaming box, because I'm out of HDMI ports on my TV. Again, I don't even know if you could play Disney Plus in 4K on a PC still. And there's a bunch of other streaming services that are like that, where they have weird stuff going. So again, many reasons why to just buy a PC. People are stupid. I think everyone knows gaming PCs exist. I think everyone is aware of this. That's an option for people.
Also, the gaming PC argument tends to, and this isn't to say that PC gaming is not a good answer in many cases, but the practical reality is, anyone who's pointing to this price, $700, and saying, "Oh, just build a gaming PC."
Yeah, you're not getting a good PC for that.
you can. I would argue you can build a gaming PC.
Right.
Put nice big giant bunny ears on that, because I mean, you can certainly get a you can get a case, RAM, board, motherboard, processor, some SSDs, and let's say what a NVIDIA 1080, like one of the decent 1080s for 700. But you know, we're talking about a GPU that's, at this point, the 1080 is what, like 6-7 years old.
It's so old. That's what I have in my PC. I got a Zotac 1080 Mini, like as they were going to be discontinued for the 2080. I guess that was the next one.
Probably.
And so yeah, it's like I remember I was playing Cyberpunk on it for a couple hours, and like it ran.
Yeah.
But it wasn't happy about it. And when I try to play VR chat and I go into one of those worlds that's like very graphically complex, and everyone comes in with their like 500 megabytes of VRAM custom avatars, my GPU is screaming. I can hear it through the headset. It is not happy. It wants nothing to do with this.
Right. So, look, this is a little unfair to say, because a lot of people who, well, no, it's not unfair, actually. A lot of people who are making these arguments, they look at their gaming PC, their current gaming PC, and they say, oh, well, I can compete with the PlayStation, or the PS5 Pro. All I'd have to do is just get the latest video card. I stick that in, and look, I can push as many polygons. And it's like, yeah, but you already have the whole rest of the rig built, and you're talking about replacing your already expensive video card with an even more expensive video card. Sure,
yeah,
you can do that for 700.
When you build a PC now, you are competing with every insufferable startup company who is trying to buy GPUs right now. So that's what you're dealing with. I'm good. I'm good with my box. I'm good with my box and my 1080 that I'm just going to keep in there until it doesn't work anymore, because it's fine. It plays Overwatch and sometimes Fallout games. It's fine.
Yeah.
It still works. I'm leaving in there.
So, look, all told, I think the PS5 Pro, it deserves to exist in the market. Maybe the price is a little out of reach for a large enough segment of the population that it might not have been the right, it might not be the right price point if they are hoping to move a decent number of units. I think it's reasonable to say that it's going to probably not sell super well, with a notable exception that, what's it going to be when it goes on sale? I mean, they're announcing it now. Pre-orders start September 26th, I think. Look, I don't think it's going to go on any sort of reasonable sale on Black Friday, literally 2 months after it goes on pre-order. And they're not shipping until November, I think. Am I wrong on that? I want to say November 11th was their ship date. November 7th. It'll be at participating retailers, and of course directly from PlayStation.com. Pre-orders begin September 26th. Okay. So I don't think for a second that this is going to go on any sort of Black Friday sale. If anything, I think for Black Friday they'll probably release like a combo deal. You know, buy this and you'll get I don't know, some featured game for free or something. That's not a bad deal as long as you want the game. My thinking as I look at this though is give it until middle of next year, or one of the early Prime days that happens next year, or somewhere else along the way. There will be sales on this. And what are those sales going to be? Is it going to drop to $650? $6? At that point, would people be mad? I think a lot of people are gonna turn away from this today, and then as soon as a sale comes along, they'll be like, "Oh wait, I didn't think about that. You know what? Yeah, that's actually an okay price. I'll get it for that." And then they might move numbers.
Austin said, "Will there be a PSVR that only works with that?" If Sony does that, they are out of their mind. Um, I don't I don't know how you would sell a game for that, because at that point you're talking about a game that has an addressable market of people who paid $700 for a console plus. Isn't PSVR like $400-$500?
Yes, I
PSVR
know it's
2.
expensive, but
Yeah, like
PSVR 2.
and not only price, but like the people who have interest in both of those things enough to buy both of them is very low.
Well, yeah.
PSVR 2 is $549. And
Yeah.
there's a bundle with Horizon Call of the Mountain for $599.
Yeah, that is pricey.
Yeah, they're already having difficulties getting developers to make games for the PSVR 2, and I don't think that's because the PS5 is like lacking in game horsepower for VR games. That's just VR is still a pretty small market segment in terms of other platforms, so it's just harder.
Yeah. I'm gonna throw a weird spin on this. I also don't think that there's any reason why they would need to make a PSVR 2 Pro. Well, okay. First, just to make the joke, this is assuming there will ever be another PSVR, because so far the first one was kind of barely a middling
There will, but it'll
accomplishment.
be
The second,
PC only.
yeah, the PSVR 2 has been a absolute catastrophe. So in their current trajectory, VR is looking like something Sony might not touch for 10 years. We'll have to see. But I would argue that as long as PSVR 2 has decent enough resolution, there is no conceivable reason they should actually need to make a new one, because all this headset really is, it is basically mirroring a PS5's display output. So, it kind of in the same way that well, this is a bad example, but it would be kind of like it's effectively doing what Android Auto does with phones, or it's the same with CarKit for Apple. The phone is rendering everything that appears on screen, and then it's just pushing it to a display that then outputs it and sends tap gestures back to the phone. So logically, this is it. If they made a PSVR 2, what would it even do different? It could be higher resolution, but that's about it. Like nothing else in the VR goggles is actually really relevant to processing. Like they don't do a lot of processing. It's all just getting funneled back to the console.
Yeah, it's a screen. Like it already has face tracking. It already has like haptic stuff in it. Yeah, I don't see a reason for that.
And that's not to say that they can't come up with a reason, but I doubt they will. So yeah.
I will say, there is a market for expensive VR shit.
Yes.
And I've seen it. I will say, like, if Sony wanted to go all out, I think they could make like some cool motion trackers for PSVR. Because that's a market that it's a small market, but it does exist, and there's not really like a big player there. So when I play VR chat, I'm aware that some people have full body tracking where they strap sensors to themselves for accurate motion in the game, down to like legs, arms, fingers, And you can, some of the headsets have like face tracking, so like their eyes point in the right direction to wherever they're talking. And there's not, from my understanding, there's not like a current hardware solution for that from like a major company. Everyone back in the day, everyone was using Vive sensors for that, but HTC has like kind of backed away from that. So most of the people I see are buying like used Vive sensors on eBay. And then there's like a couple random Chinese companies making this stuff. And more recently, there is some like open source hardware that you can like 3D print or like order for someone else to print or whatever. So that's an addressable market now that PSVR is on PC. But again, that's very small. So I don't know if they would go for that. That makes sense for them, especially when PSVR as a whole is not doing well. I don't know if this is a ship they want to continue. Allowing to sync.
I don't see them turning this around. Honestly, VR from PlayStation, because Microsoft has not really dipped their toes into this at all. But this is feeling a lot like how motion tracking with obviously like Kinect and the Wiimotes and Sony's whatever those things were with the balls on them. It's kind of feeling like that trend.
Motion. I think that was the PlayStation Motion.
Okay. Yeah, I just don't remember their brand name for it. But I'm kind of feeling like Sony's attempt at VR is really mimicking what happened with the motion tracking. It's a thing that they tried, and now that stuff is dead. Those did not persist past their original forms, and so people just didn't buy them up. And part of that's because they're separate accessories. Obviously, we can look, Nintendo made it work because the Wiimotes were in the damn box. That's what you used. You weren't going out to buy separate things.
This is the thing that Sega did like 3 or 4 times, where they made add-ons for the Genesis that were like kind of different platforms, but then it got insane where you had to have like 3 different like hardware attachments for a game or something. Like you had, I think it was like Night Trap was one of those games where like you had to have the Genesis and the CD drive and the 32X thing with the more graphics power.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Yeah, that stuff, I mean, it sounds neat on paper and it seems like a really cool a la carte way to do gaming, but then when you actually sit down and say, okay, now customers, here's the console, but if you'd like to play this small set of other games, you can also buy these extra add-ons and accessories, and those are going to cost you about as much as the console did. And but here's some more games that are going to use even more of that, and they're designed this way. And yeah, but by the time you start adding that up, it's complicated. It's more confusing than a console is supposed to be, and yeah, it doesn't work. Plus, there's already a limited number of people who are interested in motion tracking, or this like there was a reason why people weren't buying into a lot of the like Kinect and PSV or PS Motion games, because they just don't want to play that kind of game. And there are good reasons why people don't want to get into VR, especially people who have motion sickness problems or get headaches from it. We know a few people like that. Everyone knows a few people like that because it's actually a really common thing. Not everybody knows that they have those issues, but it is a well-known thing. A lot of people get headaches just from using VR headsets. So
I get headaches without VR headsets.
Okay, but
I have one right now.
Yeah, because of work. Anyway, so yeah, I have a feeling VR is going to be one of those things that backs off a little bit again, at least in the console space, and they'll probably come back in the next major generation, but I think this generation it's a flop. Um, so let's see. Uh, other minor notable things. You mentioned this earlier, but the PS5 Pro has the AI upscaling for old games. They keep having like subtle little mentions of this working in supported games, or at least kind of like excluding the unsupported ones or whatever. I have a feeling they probably have some sort of like upscaling profile for a lot of the games that they have like processed or treated, and that's probably how they're doing the upscaling. Because of the repeated mentions of that, it it stands out to me as interesting. Um, I also kind of want to give them credit, and this is a weird thing to credit, but Sony, good job putting in Wi-Fi 7. Um, because it is mind-boggling to me that I'm
Yeah.
seeing so many things coming out with older Wi-Fi standards. Like, at this point, if you're releasing a product in 2024, at least Wi-Fi 6, bare minimum. Wi-Fi 6E probably would be the better choice.
Yeah, this is another thing that I think would have been a slam dunk for a pro console is put another Wi-Fi radio in there
Mm-hmm.
that's dedicated for the Portal, the PlayStation Portal. Just do literally what Nintendo did with the Wii U. There's a dedicated direct line between the gamepad and the console, and that's why the remote play worked shockingly well for 2012. I think that was.
Yeah.
Do that. Like, what are we doing here?
Um. So yeah, the mere fact that they've got Wi-Fi 7. Look, I actually want to really give credit because that's a worthwhile improvement. Um, and most people aren't really going to know or care about that too much, but if like one of the big benefits of Wi-Fi 7 is it works on the 6 gigahertz band. And so look, that's not a completely untouched band, but it's certainly it's a chunk of space that doesn't have that much on it right now. So, woohoo, you like the gaming console doesn't need to be attached to Ethernet to have decent internet connectivity in an otherwise potentially very very crowded 2.4 and 5 gigahertz area. Like that's a real improvement. Granted, it assumes you have a Wi-Fi 7 wireless router. Not everyone's going to have that, but these are things that do matter and are options. And also, if you're buying a PS5 Pro, you can probably afford a Wi-Fi 7 router.
Yeah.
Just saying. Um, let's see. Was there anything else in here that was interesting or notable? I don't think so. Um,
Mm,
so Corbin, when are you ordering yours?
no.
um, yeah,
I treat my Xbox like my computer. It's fine. I might get another like 10 years out of it if I want to keep it that long. Because like seems good. And again, based on how the last generation is going, I think it has a while to go. Especially
Yeah.
because unlike the last generation, it has solid state storage. So that is a massive bottleneck that shouldn't be an issue. I don't think every game will need to load at like 10,000 megabits per second uh, in the future. Some will, but
Uh,
probably Call of Duty.
yeah, yeah. Honestly, I don't really have too many loading problems, even on a PS4. Um, with the notable exception that you haven't seen this, but it is a thing. You load it into an Overwatch game, and I see at the start of most matches a floating blue dot for a good 5 seconds or so a lot of times as the character models load.
Yeah, I've seen that on my Switch.
Yeah, Switch you would
Yeah.
see it. Um,
Because the Switch internal storage is, I think, worse than a hard drive. It's
yeah,
they picked the cheapest flash memory Japan could build.
so it seems. Um,
Speaking of flash memory, Apple stuff.
yes.
Um, yeah, so I watched like half of this event. I haven't had the chance to watch all of it.
Yeah,
I honestly don't have a lot of thoughts about the new iPhones. That was the part I mostly tuned out of because I was busy writing something. Um, it does. We do have. Is it across all of them? Has a dedicated camera button?
I believe that's just on the Pro. Maybe
No,
I'm
I see.
mistaken.
I see two buttons on these
Oh,
iPhone
okay, it is
16
on.
pictures.
Okay, it is on this regular 16. Wait a second. Yeah, okay, it is on the regular 16 also.
Yeah. So that's pretty cool. Um, the big thing that Apple wanted to talk about, of course, is all the AI stuff, but there wasn't really anything new there compared to what they showed at WWDC earlier this year. It's all the same, like you can summarize text, you can get it to write text, I'll like summarize your emails and your notifications and all that stuff. So I don't have a whole lot new to say there. Um, and that is coming to the base model as well. So with the iPhone 15s, only the Pro is getting the Apple Intelligence stuff because only the Pro has enough RAM for that. So this time around, everyone gets it. 16 Pro Max size is insane, Carson says. Yeah, I mean, I have my base iPhone 15. This is like a little bit bigger than I would like, and this is the smallest one that they make now. Phone too big.
So yeah, I'm not going to disagree. It is they're closing in way too closely to basically an iPad mini size with the phone. So yeah, that's not ideal. I I will grant though, this is another one of those things where I'll take the opinion of, hey, if people want to buy it, that's like, go ahead, make it for them. I'm sure there's an audience that must want it, right? Right? Say yes.
Yeah, I mean, like if my I can see people who use this again. As long as the plus exists, I think the people who just want the bigger screen will get the plus. But it also depends on, like, carriers really love getting you on the Pro. So I think there's a lot of people who get that for that reason alone. Is like Verizon gives them an insane deal or something. Um, I see that being useful also for the same reason I see people go for like an iPad Pro or something, where like if it's my main computer, yeah, I'd probably get the big one that does all the camera stuff and is the most powerful. But it's not. I'd like my phone to be smaller. Please stop making them bigger.
Yeah. So I have up on screen right now the size comparisons of the regular 15, the 15 Pro, which are effectively identical, the 16 Pro, which is ever so slightly larger. It's not that much bigger, but it's still a little bigger than the 15 Pro. And then the 15 Pro Max versus the 16 Pro Max, which again, like if you're just looking at them side by side, it doesn't look like they're that much bigger, or that the 16 Pro Max got that much bigger than the 15 Pro Max. But you got to remember how big the 15 Pro Max already was. And then just imagine making it any bigger than it is, like, that's a lot.
Yeah. So yeah, there's just a lot of more. It seems like they focus a little bit more on the software this time. I know there is a new. They say new 48 megapixel fusion camera, but it wasn't the last one 48 megapixel sensor. I don't remember.
I thought it was, but admittedly I didn't really do a lot of comparisons here. Austin, gotta know when to fold them. Sir, slaps are coming, sir. Slaps are coming. But no, that's fair.
Yeah. I don't have a lot to say about the Pro. I will say, I like the colors on the new base iPhone 16s. Those are some good colors. You know, they move the cameras around again. It's got the Apple Intelligence stuff. I will say, very silly that the base model still doesn't have always on screen. It's still USB 2. I know the USB 2 thing is like only an issue like for like a couple hours. You have this phone, you need to do a transfer, unless you want to do, you know, camera transfers or something. But like that really should just be there. That's another thing that like all of the competition had like 5 years ago. So yeah, I think this is another year where I've seen a lot of people mention that like you don't need the Pro. This is fine. I think that was last year was a big year for that, and that's part of the reason I don't have an iPhone 15 Pro, because it seems mostly fine.
So I'm going to I'm not going to quite agree on the colors. I appreciate that there are colors. That's nice. I think they're okay. A couple of them are pretty. They're decent, but not great. I still hold that the best colors I've ever seen were on Samsung phones several years ago. Samsung was willing to put out deep, rich colors. Please, more of that. Give us deep, rich colors in phones. They look nice. Not to say I won't probably still get a black phone, because I'm gonna put it inside of a case that almost certainly has black, or you know, whatever. But hey, you know, I appreciate that there can be colors, and I'd like to even see the color when I take the phone out of the case. So yeah, give us colors, Apple. It's okay. That being said, also the Pro phones, they can come in colors. They came out with 4 Pro phone colors: black titanium, neutral titanium, white titanium, and desert titanium, otherwise known as black, silver, white, and gold. They don't need to just be known colors.
Apple's still doing the dumb thing where the Pro phones can't have fun colors. The same thing with their Macs. It's very sad.
Yeah.
Sometimes I want high-end hardware and a fun color. I thought this was America. Why don't I get that?
I believe Corbin is revealing right now Apple is a Chinese company.
We can't let the terrorists win, Cody. We need fun colors on the iPhone 16 Pro.
Yes. So I want to give them credit on the camera. Apparently they're calling it camera control, not camera button, which, look, it's an interesting feature. I do think that it's a bit of a farce in a way, maybe, because for anybody who watched it, and I commented on this during their presentation, it looks like a small enough control that you're not going to get good swipe accuracy like it's going to be very prone to over swiping or under swiping. Like you're going to move your finger a little bit and maybe not get a reaction from it, or maybe you move it just a little too much and it overshoots what you're going for. I think these are going to be common issues with this.
I don't know how this would be better in most use cases than like a well implemented gesture on the screen.
Right.
Like if I'm holding my phone horizontally and there's like a scroll wheel or something on the screen, like just right here, I don't see how that's different.
Well, and it's coming up with the on-screen interface anyway. You right. Just have a separate thing that you touch instead of the on-screen interface. Now, don't get me wrong. I can think of exactly one scenario where I want this. Exactly one scenario where I want this. When I'm taking pictures of my phone screen and constantly saying, damn, I don't want to touch the screen because I'm going to leave fingerprints on it. So, you know, me as a reviewer who cares about this, I'm the only person who cares about this. Or the only type of person that cares about this. YouTubers and reviewers are going to love this because, hey, we can control things without touching the screen for once. Good, we don't have to wipe off the screen every time we touch it. That's it. Most normal people are not going to care about that. Otherwise, I agree. I don't really see much of a purpose for this that couldn't just be achieved by an on-screen interface. And I had heard a while back that what they were doing was designing this so that a tap on the control was going to replicate, or sorry, that this button was effectively going to replicate the experience of using a dedicated camera. So it's a half push of the button gets you focus, and then a full push gets you shutter button, or something to that effect. Evidently, they're not doing that.
No.
And
I don't.
I always wondered if there was really a purpose for that, or if that was more just to make people feel like they were getting something. Because focus on phones is already kind of only halfway a thing. Just because phones have such a tight aperture, they're really large. They've got a large focus area, or a large depth of field. My first reaction would be like, yeah, that sounds cool. I like that button on my dedicate camera, but it's like, wait a minute. When I need to focus something, it's very rarely because the phone is like completely failed at autofocusing and I need to like tell it to do it again. It's usually like there's different distances and I need to tap the screen to tell it where to focus, and I wouldn't be able to do that with a button. Yeah.
They still have the shortcut button. Yeah, there's still the. Yeah, so now there's a dedicated shortcut button, which you can remap to basically anything, which is nice. I do kind of wish I had that on my 15. And then the new camera button, the press release says it opens the camera when you click it, and then like once you're in the camera, it can do controls. And then they say additionally, developers will be able to bring camera control to third-party apps such as Snapchat. So I'm assuming that there will be a switch at some point where like you can remap that to a camera supported app. So like it would open Snapchat instead, and then the actions would do stuff in the Snapchat app. So having like two remappable buttons is kind of cool. Although I feel like maybe it would have been better to just have another action button that can be remapped to all the same things. So I can have like if I'm getting this phone and that camera button has to always be a camera button, which is fine. Like I really still miss the double click power button to open the camera. Without thinking, my lizard brain does that on my iPhone still. Like that is just seared in my memory from using Android phones for years. I still do that sometimes, and then I'm like, wait, why did I just open my wallet? Crap. So that's nice. And then if I had this, I would use the camera button to open the camera, and then probably not much else. And then I would make the shortcut button probably my flashlight is what I would do. Because again, Apple is too much of a coward to implement the chop gesture. That was the other greatest invention on Android phones.
Okay. So
right now I have the accessibility gesture where I tap 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Nope, doesn't work. Great, yeah, it doesn't work. I also sometimes activate this accidentally.
So I have that enabled on 1 or 2 of my phones, and I think it's only, is it 3 taps? I thought it was 2. Anyway,
I think you can set different ones for 2 and 3.
I believe your screen has to be on for it to work.
Oh, well, I feel like no. Maybe
this is making such good content.
ASMR of Corbin frantically tapping the back of his smartphone to try to make the flashlight turn on.
Yes.
Okay, I guess it is screen. I guess I never tried that.
Yeah, believe me, I've been annoyed by that many times.
Yeah, it's fine now. Okay.
Yeah, it's still unreliable anyway. Or at least really hard to do with one hand, which kind of makes it even dumber.
Be really careful at a movie theater.
So Austin saying it feels like Apple is testing the water to move to all capacitive buttons. So I want to point out an interesting thing about the camera control, at least unless I misunderstood it, because maybe I did. As far as I'm aware, this is still a physical button. It is recessed and it is touch sensitive, and it also has a taptic engine on this button. So, and again, emphasizing maybe I'm wrong, maybe this is not an actual real button, maybe it's a capacitive sensor with taptic feedback, but the reason that they have the taptic there is when you're moving your finger, or like when you're using your finger to scroll through options, you're supposed to get haptic feedback on that scroll. So as it hits each new option, you're supposed to feel it. So as far as I can tell, this is actually not them trying to move to a capacitive button. It's still a real button, which is an interesting choice, because that is a lot of stuff to put into one thing that only controls the camera.
Mm-hmm.
At least I think that's kind of unusual. And I do agree also, for people who don't really want who don't want a dedicated button for their camera, this actually should be remappable. It's not a big deal that it isn't, but I think it should be.
Yeah, I would hope that there's a setting where you can flip it and then be like, no, treat this as action button 2.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if they're gonna do that.
Oh, I truly can't imagine they will, because Apple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's not
what else
a lot else. There's that they talked about all the satellite stuff again. Again, I am still extremely interested in knowing what happens when the free satellite ends, because they still have not done that. I think they have another year.
They extended it a year,
yeah.
Well,
so
for
they
the
extended
original
it.
ones.
Yeah, it started with the 14, which now has 3 years, and the 15 has 2 years.
Yeah.
So 1 year from now, at the same time. Yeah, 1 year. So we have 1 year to find out how Apple will get people to pay for this, and then also how to deal with the bad publicity of I died in a horrific car accident because I couldn't enter my credit card to pay for the the emergency help. So that's going to be really fun and interesting. It is, I guess, nice that Apple didn't raise prices on, I think, any of these. The base models are definitely the same.
Yeah.
I want to say the Pro iPhone is also the same.
I didn't hear anyone
$999.
talking about it, so I'm assuming they're the same. Admittedly, It's another thing I did not check.
I'll do iPhone 15 Pro starting price 2023. We're going back in time. Um, do, 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 do. What does the Verge say? Control F $. Standard 15 starts at $7.99. Where is it? Yeah, $9.99. Okay, yeah. So the starting price for both did not change, but I think also the storage capacities did not change. So starting storage capacity for the iPhone 16 is 128 gig, and then uh, the Pro is still 128 gig. That is like a lot of storage, but also like I feel like it could be a little bit more, just a little bit. At least on the Pros, I have 128 on my phone. I have a lot of games, or not a lot of games. I have some games and a lot of photos and videos and my entire music library and all this other crap. I've not filled this phone up, so 128 is still fine for me.
So, yeah, that checks out. I agree. They should just have a lower base, or sorry, a higher base, for storage. But I'm always going to be that person who says, but wait, there are people out there who literally just want the phone and a bare minimum of apps. They really will never care about putting a bunch of photos on or anything like that. So, it's reasonable. But yeah. So one thing stood out to me. It's been a bit of a talking point, and I'm looking for the easy examples of this, but not finding them super easily. I'll just use this because this irritated me so much. So one of the things that they talked about was the 48 megapixel Fusion camera enables 2x optical quality telephoto option, which is like having two cameras in one, so users can get closer to the subject to easily frame a photo. Oh boy. I'd like to point out, this was a lie, and yes, I'm just calling it a lie outright. This was a lie Apple told last year. If anyone remembers the thing about the iPhone 15 Pro has 7 cameras. This is something Apple said on stage. It's like having 7 cameras. And they made this just the dumbest argument for why it's like having 7 cameras in one. Because they were doing all this crazy special technology. No, they were cropping. That's it. They were cropping. It was different zoom ranges that were pre-built into the camera. That's it. It was cropping. And people bought into this crap. And for anyone who sees this, I'm zooming in on a Matty Hapoya video, because he's an Apple loyalist, and oh boy did he shill hard for this. It's total BS. The 15 did not have 7 lenses. Some people rightfully called it out. Other people kind of bought into it. Anyway, people are doing it again Apple's doing it again this time, but basically saying, yeah, we did this tricky thing, and it's like having 2 cameras. No, it's not. It's one damn camera. So, yeah, Apple's basically doing the same thing a lot of the crappier Android OEMs do, where they just sort of make stuff up about their cameras, and then it ends up being very untrue, but people forget it by the time the next year rolls around.
Yeah, I was trying to think if I had any other thoughts. It's just, new iPhone, slightly different than the last one. I was like looking at this a little bit and thinking like, can I get this for like an okay price if I sell my iPhone 15? But it seems like I'd still probably have to pay like $200-$300 like after tax and everything, and getting a new case. I'm like, no, I'm good. So I think unless life and work circumstances change and I suddenly need a different phone, I'm probably just gonna keep the 15 for another year, and then this time next year, either get a battery replacement, which would be like $100, and keep on trucking, or sell and try to get something newer. So
Yeah,
because this is like still great phone. The only thing I don't like about this is, again, I would like camera buttons, or like, action button, camera, whatever, mappable button. That's kind of nice. I don't like that this phone still gets randomly hot sometimes for no reason. Don't know why. A little bit annoying, a little bit concerning, but seems to cause no damage.
On your barely a year-old device. Yeah. So I've said this before. If there's a really good trade-in deal, especially where I could throw them like an ancient phone at, let's say, my carrier, then I saw that little bit of a smile cross your face at the idea of throwing a phone at a carrier.
No, I'm sorry. I saw a funny meme.
Oh, okay. Well, I am now personally smiling at the idea of throwing a phone at a carrier. Just walk up to the T-Mobile store and be like, "Hey, can someone just look at me for a second?" Whack.
That's something Trump would say happens. You'd be like, you can just walk into a T-Mobile store and throw a phone at a person. They have to take it.
And I'm not even on T-Mobile, so it's just funnier because it feels like that's the company that you would throw a phone at.
Like, why are you here? Why did you do that to me?
The T-Mobile employee walks up to the person and it's like, "Sorry, sir, this is a Wendy's." Mm-hmm. Sorry, that's funny to me. Anyway, yeah. So, if I could get one for really cheap, I might look at it. Mostly so I could have a more current iPhone, mostly to trade in the future. But I haven't seen any deals that are like basically get it for free, and until I see one of those, I'm probably not interested. So, yeah, I think I'm just gonna sit this year out again, which is fine with me because there's nothing really jumping out at me as a compelling reason to get this. Again, like, I'd like to have an iPhone for various testing purposes, but yeah, it's this particular year feels like if there was an iPhone S year, this was it. Like, this was definitely there. We're just going to kind of tweak and clean things up a little bit. We're not really going to improve the phone that much. And, oh, by the way, AI. We swear it's coming. That's kind of what this year felt like for at least the 16 and 16 Pro.
Yeah, and it's also funny that like the main marketing point for this will not be ready when the phone comes out.
That too.
Which is also interesting.
Though, to be fair, that's not much better than the Pixel 9 shipping without the latest version of Android, so, and not even getting it right away. I think while we're on this subject of the iPhones, though, we should probably need to at least call out the funny thing. There was not a single mention of RCS.
Yeah, they're not going to talk about that. They're not going to talk about anything that is illegal in the EU. In fact, I was ready for Tim Cook to start saying slurs about the European Commission. Unfortunately, that didn't happen, but I feel like he wanted to do that. Also, cuss out Ireland for the next day, fining Apple like €1 billion.
Yeah.
That's very funny.
let's see. I'm scrolling through the other stuff that was in the 16 Pro, and like a big part of the stuff that's in the 16 Pro is basically Instagram filters. Like that's a new exciting thing. No, it isn't. Of course, they brought up the new A18 chip, which, woo, it's a bigger, faster chip. Yeah, there's shockingly little new about these phones. So let's talk about the all-new, amazing, completely changed Apple Watch Series 10 that looks identical, works identical, is pretty much identical in almost every other way.
Yeah, Apple made the new Apple Watch. They made it thinner. I don't know if they needed to do that, but they did.
They made it's not a bad idea, though. I think most people would probably take more battery life over thinness.
Yeah,
on the watch.
Yeah. Like I have my, I think this is a Series 8, and like it is like, the thickness of like kind of a normal big watch. This is more than I'd get from a normal like mechanical watch. At least not the ones that are like supposed to be like fashion accessories and are like big and obnoxious. So maybe like this would have been better as an option, and then put the guts of this in a watch this size, and I can have something that lasts for more than a day. But okay, whatever. So yeah, new thinner design. They redid a lot of the like charging coil stuff and the motion sensors, and I think they said
they added water depth and temperature sensors.
Yeah. Which that's kind of cool. It has a bigger screen than her. I think they said up to 30% more active screen area than the Watch 4, 5, 6. Okay. Oh, I see what they're doing there. I think the 7 or the 8 is where they made the screen bigger. So they couldn't say 5% bigger than the last gen, so they went back further. Oh, I see what you're doing there, Apple. Sneaky.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure this is bigger than the 7, 8, and 9.
Yeah, it's a little bit. Yeah, it's a little bit.
Yeah, the difference they'd have to admit is like, oh, well, it's only like 5 or 8% bigger than those models, which is, I think it still makes a difference, but it's not an impressive number.
Thank you, Apple. They did say it was the biggest watch screen they've ever made, like more than the Watch Ultra, but I believe that's on the whatever the biggest size is. I don't know if it's the 48 millimeter. I don't know the sizes of the Apple Watch. But yeah, so bigger screen on some of them, thinner design. It's got some sensors. Still no blood oxygen sensor if you're in the US, because Apple will not settle that lawsuit. They would rather die than do that. So,
well, strictly speaking, I believe the sensor is there. It's just not enabled.
Yeah, they're not allowed to. Yeah, because they have the same SKU, I believe, worldwide. In other countries, it's fine. But I think I have a blood oxygen sensor on mine, so I think mine's better than the Watch 10, I believe. That's how this works. Yeah, I mean, look, I have an Apple Watch Series 10 right now. Look, you can't say I don't. It looks the same.
Yeah. So, and that really was one of the things that got me. They kept hyping how this is so different, and visually it looks exactly like any other Apple Watch.
Yeah, I do wonder if like they would ever try to make a round design. I know that means that like instantly you have to redesign all the apps, or they run in a funny little square.
Yeah.
Like iPhone apps on the iPad.
Oh god.
Or it's like the round Android Wear watches, where some of the apps just have like half the screen cut off around the edges because they were made for the first square ones. which that's also funny.
Yeah, I think smartwatches are just perpetually going to be in this state of we're only going to commit to one design, and that's where it's going to be. Which, you know what, maybe that's the way it should be.
Yeah, I know people. This is like a personal taste thing, but like I do like the square watches more for smartwatches because like I do want to be able to read my notifications, and there's less room for that on the round ones. And also, I don't even really like, classic young person. I don't want to read the round clocks. I would prefer digital. So the clock face ones just always look a little bit weird on the square watch. So like on my watch here, I've got I'm on the like basically same thing I did on my Galaxy watch. I'm on the watch face that has like 10 information panels, like the battery life and the temperature and humidity and air quality and date and stuff. So like, I like the square ones more. In fact, that's what I was wishing for when I had Android phones, is like someone would try a square Wear OS watch again, and no one ever did, except Oppo, but they don't sell things here.
Asus was also doing it, but I think they're fully out now.
That ended a long time ago. It was Asus was, I think they were the last holdout, and there was also, I think they might have been the only one, because if you go back further, that's like the first round of Wear watches. That's like the Galaxy Gear.
Well, Asus definitely outlasted that, but
yeah.
It's unfortunate we really just don't have options on that.
Austin said, "Let's settle on Squircles as the ultimate watch." I mean, the Apple Watch is pretty close to a Squircle.
Yeah, it's close enough.
Pretty significant rounded edges there.
Let's see. So, the Apple Watch getting a depth and temperature sensor for water activities and stuff, like, okay, that's fine. It seems like it belongs more on maybe like the higher tier watches. It's sort of odd they put it on, I think, all of them.
Oh, Carson said Sony smartwatch. That's right. They also did that.
Yeah.
I think that was around the same time as the Asus. Might have been earlier.
It was definitely in that neighborhood, though. I can't remember if they lasted longer or not.
I think Asus was the last one. I think.
Yeah, could be.
Because they made like a Gen 2 of theirs. Bring it back. Come on, Sony. Make it. You can make it a PlayStation watch. It can be fun.
Yeah. You can play PSP games on it.
Yeah.
So it probably has the processing power for it. So let's see. Apple really did a lot of talking up about Tides app for tide tracking. So I guess they're really looking forward to lots of surfing videos in a future event. A lot of surfing, a lot of swimming is my guess. We can just plan on that being a 45-second promo spot.
This is another case where, going back to the PlayStation thing, this is not for me.
Right.
I will not go diving with my Apple Watch. I live like 100 miles inland.
Corbin is a dry human. He doesn't like going in water.
Yeah. We weren't meant to go in the ocean. We just weren't.
So
you're not going to catch me on a cruise ship or diving or anything. Nope. That's fine. That's where the fish live, and I'll live where I'm supposed to live, and that's just the way it is.
So let's see. The one thing I'm sure we will catch you doing, though, is playing music through the built-in speakers. That is an all Corbin thing. No, this was one of those things. I kind of don't know why they bothered to hype it up as much as they did, but audio playback through the speakers, like, that's fine. Like, I don't see a reason.
I remember. I mean, I remember some of the Wear OS watches having that, and it was nice for like Google Assistant or whatever.
Okay, but you've already had speakers
Yeah,
that
that's
could
true.
do basic things. This is now giving, I believe, well, first off, the apps now have the ability, like the Apple apps have been updated to do this, but I'm guessing that they probably also added an API so that regular apps could play through those speakers. They've already been able to do that, but it's just for short-term like notification sounds and alarms. It's not for. It was never intended for things like playing podcasts. Um, so I don't
Yeah,
think this is that
I don't,
special.
I don't know what you would do here, because like
I don't think a lot of people
it,
want to sit down and listen to a podcast from their watch.
no, because it's like if you're moving, then like it's gonna be like, guys, welcome to NPR. We're gonna listen to the
Yeah,
podcast today. It's like that's not good.
exactly. So yeah, that seems kind of like a
Although,
poor choice.
what would be cool, and I'm guessing this is not what Apple's doing, but it'd be really fun to do like bone conduction on the wrist. I don't think that's how the human body works, but like that would be kind of fun. Guys, I'm listening to my podcast through my wrist. The NPR podcast is traveling through my body at this moment.
Oh boy. Hey, for what it's worth, I have in the past tested doing phone calls from a watch, so I mean, yeah. Um, somewhere out there is a conspiracy theorist like, oh my god, that's how they're gonna cheat in the next debate. She's gonna wear a watch. It'll have bone conduction. It travels through her through her
I
arm.
I I cheated with smartwatches.
Yes, you actually did.
So yeah, because I had a smartwatch before teachers. Either they might have just known and not cared. That's probably more likely in retrospect. But
Mhm.
they hadn't got used to the idea of using smartwatches as cheating tools. So I did put like stuff on Google Keep on my watch. At one point, there was a final that I was not feeling great about, so the teacher had put a lot of like study material for it in a PowerPoint presentation, and I put that PowerPoint presentation on my cloud storage, and I did the thing in Google Slides, whatever, where you can turn a file into a embed, so it has nice big controls, and then I put that on the Wear OS web browser. That was great. Good times.
Hey, I remember doing some of that in a physics class that I had in college. The professor told us in advance that one of the questions on the test will literally be just write out this insanely long equation. That was the question. It wasn't even a question. It was just, here's this really dumb equation. You need to write it all out. And it was this oversized, overcomplicated equation. And I'm thinking, why is this a dumb memorization thing? And so every single person was like, yeah, okay, we're all just gonna cheat on this. Like, you could tell everybody was cheating on that. So yeah, different people had different things that they were doing, and because this was a physics class, we had to do a lot of math, so everyone also had calculators.
That was always fun. The thing where we could use graphing calculators, and like the teachers like knew you could cheat by putting notes in the graphing calculators, but most kids like didn't try that because it was too much work.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and
that was good times.
I'll tell you, if you're gonna take the time to do that kind of work, you deserve the higher grade.
Mm-hmm. Here it is. Here's my TI-84. I asked my mom to get me the silver edition because the silver edition has more ROM, so I can put more on the storage. Good times. Anyway, so speaking of calculators, What else is there? Because I have to go in like 5 minutes.
Uh,
Uh,
let's see. Technically, there was the Watch Ultra 2, but it
it's just a
nothing
new
happened.
color.
Yeah.
Yeah, new color.
There was the AirPods 4. This is the thing you cared about,
Yeah, this is the thing I care about.
or the AirPods
So
Pro 2.
yeah, so I was, well, no, okay, so the AirPods Pro 2 are not new. Apple made it sound
Okay.
like it was a new thing,
Oh,
but
you're
it's
right.
just, they're
You're
just
right.
talking about updates for the, yeah. So yeah, the AirPods update was something I was holding out for months because I have original AirPods. So I have fucked up ears. So basically, all of the in-ear earbuds I've tried, after a few months, they just are unable to stay in my ears, or they aren't comfortable the entire time, like I have them. And I had tried a bunch of like different tips. I tried like third-party ones. I was reviewing earbuds for a while at like Android Police, so I was getting like a few of them, and I'd buy a couple more. Didn't work. So I eventually just went back to wired ear pods. And then like for times when I'm like doing, chores or something and I'm like moving around a lot, I'm gonna snag a headphone cable, a drawer or something. I would use AirPods. Um, because those just kind of like sit in your ear. You don't jam them in. So I was waiting for new AirPods because I don't like that my current ones, the batteries are dying because they're old and they charge with lightning. Um, but I got kind of tired of waiting, and I was like, maybe the AirPods Pro are different, and they're already USB-C, and there's like a lot of more tips you can get for them. So like, okay, I'll just try these because they were on sale. So I did get the AirPods Pro 2 a couple weeks ago. So far, they're fine. I will say the sound quality jump between like my normal original AirPods and this is not that different. I was expecting maybe a little bit better because of the ice. It's a little bit better because of the isolation, mostly. But like, I guess that makes sense. Like they can't physically fit a bigger sound driver in this. It's the same size. So, I did get the Pro 2. So far so good. So I'm not gonna buy the normal AirPods, but I am glad that they stuck to roughly the same design. That's good because there aren't really a whole lot of other options for that kind of earbud in wireless. Because I was looking, it's like a bunch of like Anchor stuff, and I think Mobvoi has their Tick Pods that are like this, and now the new Samsung Galaxy Buds that were just a direct clone of the normal AirPods. So that's the other option. Um, so they seem good. The interesting thing here is that they still have an open ear design, but Apple is claiming these have active noise canceling. So I don't. I know like Apple. I think Apple let people try this already, so there's like already independent testing, but that's probably not a lot of time with these. I'll be interested. I'll be interested to see the reviews of this to see if like does that actually work, because you kind of need the isolation for that. Because famously, Samsung tried this with my longtime favorite pair of earbuds, the beloved Galaxy Buds Live, or the Samsung Beans, as they were more affectionately known. Those were also like open earbuds with like no, they didn't go in ear. There was no isolation. They just went in your ear. And those also had active noise canceling that didn't do anything. It barely did anything. So the entire time I had them, I didn't use them because it was useless. So I'll be interested if these are different, but my hunch is that the ANC is not going to be that good.
That's yeah. I mean, without real noise isolation, it usually isn't. So I wouldn't have the highest hopes, but I think any amount of ANC, even without real proper isolation, is probably helping. It might reduce sound without getting rid of it entirely, and that's okay. Hey, that's fine. What gets me is they're doing ANC and non-ANC versions, and they're separated by, I believe it's $50.
Yeah, because they were selling 2 generations of the normal AirPods and the Pros. So
Right.
now they just have 2 tiers of this and then the Pros.
So what kind of gets me about this is even the non-ANC versions. Yeah, the non-ANC version is $129. Apple, listen, Booby. There's no one out there except I'm sure some very like niche audiophile level earbuds. There's nobody out there selling earbuds for over $100 without ANC anymore. In fact, I don't know if you can even find them without ANC for like $70 to $80. Like, this is getting to the point of it's a little ridiculous. Just put ANC in. Like, that's it. It's really weird to try to do this completely unnecessary restriction behind a $50 paywall. Because I'm not even sure that there's a hardware difference between them. I think it might actually just be a software thing where ANC isn't an option. I'm not sure. Maybe they are saving themselves on some microphones. But
well, I think the ANC one might be the only one that has like Qi charging on the case and like some other random things. I'm not sure.
I got the impression that the Qi charging was on all of them, but maybe.
Where's the product page? Let's see, Apple Store.
Well,
I want
the
AirPods, new AirPods. Yeah, I had to click all the links. Pre-order. Oh wait, now I should go to specs. Tech specs. Charging. Yeah, it is only the ANC one. So the base AirPods is USB-C.
Yeah.
Other one says it works with USB-C, Apple Watch charger, or Qi certified chargers. And then also the ANC one is the only one that has the speaker in the case for
the
fine. Yeah.
Okay, I'll grant them then that it kind of makes sense, but they didn't really advertise it that way. So
I also just tried putting my AirPods Pro on the Apple Watch charger for the first time, and it did work. And a little bit like, oh, that's neat, I guess.
That's something.
Yeah, I did stick the AirPods case on like my phone stand. And I was like, this is silly.
Yes, a little.
It's like this feels wrong.
So, yeah, still, I'm gonna hold to this argument. Still, at $129, put in ANC. It's just kind of inexcusable to try to sell something without ANC over $100. No one else would do that. Apple, you don't need to skimp like that. So, yeah, there's my simple opinion on the buds. The other thing, obviously, that they talked up quite a bit is that these are effectively now hearing aids. Or at least the ANC models are. Which, okay.
Yeah, I know absolutely nothing about that industry, so I don't have any insight. I didn't pay a whole lot of attention to that, and I don't have any insightful commentary. But like, I guess that's cool.
So
I think they said that's also pending FDA approval or whoever approves that.
Yes. I believe it's still technically unapproved, but they are almost there or something like that. Anyway, so there was a member of the Android Police team who actually needs to wear hearing aids, and was part of the team. I believe he's gone now, but he's talked about this several times and discussed the fact that it would be, Apple or other companies have basically enough technology now in the earbuds that it would be really easy for them to do proper hearing aids. And so, you know, like he's made this argument many times that a lot of the hearing aids out there are actually kind of behind the times, sort of in the same way that like dedicated cameras are behind smartphones when it comes to a lot of processing techniques. And, you know, same sort of thing with hearing. There's a lot that the dedicated hearing aid companies could really learn from what earbud companies are doing. And so he kept saying, like, it'd be great to see either one kind of do the crossover and start taking lessons from the other. So, you know, I get the impression he's probably seeing this and thinking, wow, this is cool. This is exactly what he would have been asking for. That being said, it doesn't feel like I've used transparency modes on a lot of earbuds in the past, and I feel like it's, in a lot of cases, basically hearing aids. I mean, it's basically just amplifying a lot of the sounds around you. It's a little bit more specific than that. It's doing some processing to try to amplify certain sounds, but for the most part, it is just an amplifier. So that to me sounds like probably kind of the same benefit, the same outcome. So I don't know that this is really that different or that new. Though Apple kept saying only Apple can deliver this, which I got a lot of laughs at because BS.
Yeah, I did like that the event started immediately with the Apple crash detection saved my life. Like that part gets, they just immediately jump to, you will die without our products.
Honestly, I'm not even kidding. I didn't notice. I completely zoned that out. It did not even enter my brain that happened. You saying it now is the first time now catching that was a thing. So
okay. So I have to go now. Do we want to wrap up, or should I just leave and you keep going?
Let's see. The only other things I had, or the only other tabs I had open were Apple Intelligence, which we've talked about. They didn't announce a single new thing, and the health features, which I only opened it because the tab was there. I don't have anything to say on it, so I'm good with the wrap up.
Okay.
So Corbin, do you have anything you'd like to pitch?
No.
Okay.
Don't talk to me. Don't look at anything I write.
This is usually good advice. So with that, if anyone would like to support the channel, there are links down below to Cash App, Streamlabs, and Patreon. Of course, huge thanks to those who do support the channel. David, I was about to merge Carson and Austin. But David, Carson, Austin, Diablo, and Curvy Mermaid, y'all are awesome. I will be back for gaming this weekend as usual. Same YouTube channel, same YouTube time. Of course, huge thanks to everyone for coming by, hanging out in the chat room. Of course, you guys help make the show. So with that, well, that's pretty much it. So hope you all have an excellent rest of your evening, rest of your week, and we will catch you in the next one. Good night, everybody.
Bye.